Earlier this year, I learned about a fantastic design technique that has helped me accelerate my design process and create a better understanding of how a user is going to interact with a product or feature. A product manager at my job introduced me to this technique called breadboarding. Breadboarding is actually derived from electrical engineering. It's a technique where you kind of figure out the functionality with a tool or device without thinking about the industrial design of that device. And when we apply it to UX design, it actually gives us a really great tool and technique to take our object-oriented UX and object-oriented diagram and give it the life of a user flow, and also help us inform further decisions that need to be made through wireframing and high-fidelity design. Today, I want to talk about my journey with breadboarding and tell you a little bit why I think it's going to be one of my favorite techniques to use in 2023 and beyond. And I want to help you understand a little bit about how you can get started with breadboarding right now. So last time in my object-oriented UX video, if you haven't watched that, I'll link it up here down below. Make sure you go and watch that first because it's going to give you a lot of kind of the precursor knowledge that you need here. But in that video, I started talking about a problem in healthcare that I've been thinking about for quite a long time. I've been working on a healthcare product for several years now. And in that product, one of the big challenges I've been thinking about is how to make charting or note-taking more efficient for clinicians. This is one of the top 3 or 4 areas that technology has not really truly solved for physicians yet. And there are a lot of technology potential here for natural language processing and dictation and AI, but that still is only being layered on top of existing poor UX. And so I want to think about how can we make charting and note-taking better for physicians when they get into actually needing to do that with a patient. Now, in my last video, I started talking a little bit about how object-oriented UX and creating an object diagram can help us get a better understanding of the scope and features and potential within a particular product. Now, I only went a little ways into it to give you kind of the overview of how it works, but what I've done is I've gone ahead and given it a little bit more detail here. At least enough detail for us to kind of work with today. Last time I talked about note sections and section types. Here you can also see I've added like variables and rich content into my object diagram. And the goal here is to give us an understanding of all the things a user needs to be able to interact with and do within a particular feature or within a particular kind of story or journey, where user flows and user journey maps can really be helpful. So I've also got a bit of a user flow up here. I can see that I'm going to add a section, edit the section, create these things or add these things to it, and then code and then sign the chart. Now, within the charting environment, there are a lot of different things that we need to do. And so my goal here with this exercise in particular is to go ahead and give us the flow of how do we actually start doing these things. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about the spaces. Now, I'm not thinking about pages, I'm not thinking about modals or overlays or any kind of drawers, anything like that. I'm not thinking about that stuff right now. I'm just thinking about the spaces. And I want to think about the spaces as it relates to these functions that I have on the screen in front of me. I'm going to go ahead and create a section. And you can see I've already kind of created a section. I really like to use FigJam sections for this. So within my note overview, I know that I'm going to have note sections. So I'm going to create sections and I'm going to have, and I need the ability to add, remove, save as a template, editing and management. And more importantly, I'm probably going to have other actions I need to put in here as well. So I'm actually going to create a new object-oriented object diagram. I'm just going to call this the note. It's not going to be the sections, it's just the note itself. And I want to be able to add sections. I want to be able to create codes for it or select a code for it. I might want to be able to add like data or information. I'm probably also going to have like patient information. I'm just going to make that one big group for now because theoretically that's kind of a separate problem in a way that we want to like integrate into this experience. But then I'm also going to add a couple things. So we're going to say like at the high level, like I do want to be able to add a section here. I'm going to let's say I'm going to assign a code, and I'm going to sign it. Now this is pretty high level. There's still some other details here that I'm not even fully aware of, so I would actually want to take this and test it with some users. But for now, this is the flow I'm going to think about. So over here in my note overview, I'm going to just add a rectangle. I'm thinking about this kind of like a really rough, high level like wireframe in a way. And the reason that it's very narrow is I almost think about this almost like I'm designing like a mobile app. In a mobile app or on a responsive website, we are forced by the screen real estate to prioritize information. Not everything can be on the screen at once. And so because of that, we actually establish a really important hierarchy where that we may not get as much on a larger screen. It forces me to have a direct linear hierarchy of what's most important. So on the screen, I'm going to add like patient information. That's probably the most important thing that's going to be on this page. Making sure that the information is correct, making sure that we have information to reference, and making sure the patient is correct. And then I'm going to add, let's say like information that's been entered into the visit. So I'm going to add like vital signs. Then below that, I'm going to add my kind of introductory text, which would be like, start typing for your note. And within this space, I'm going to add some action from my object-oriented UX. So I'm going to say let's have like a little button for add a section. And again, the kind of specifics around how this comes about later on down the road are not really of our concern right now. We're really just mostly concerned with where are the functions going to be on the page or the space, and then how are we going to continue to use them. So type your note, add a section, and then let's say like maybe there's like a way, we're gonna have like sign, and then like code. So like I'll have this like kind of grouping of 3 buttons kind of down below, kind of at the bottom. What we're ending up with and what we're actually going to find here is that this is going to be a pretty empty kind of experience, actually, relatively speaking. Like it's going to be pretty open. We're going to have a handful of sections of information, but for the most part, it's going to be like type your note and then add a section, code, and sign. Now, when it comes to adding a section, I'm going to go ahead and scoot this over, and I'm going to do note overview, but I'm going to say like, section, like add a section. So I'm going to kind of add that little detail to that. And then I'm also going to take an arrow from my button for add a section and go straight over to this next space. That kind of shows that, hey, from this button, so inside of this, I'm going to have like, typing your note, but under add a section, I might actually open that up, or like there might be options here, right? And so that could be things like HPI, ROS, stuff like that. Now you can also kind of get a feel for like how this could work. So like under add a section, I've got HPI, ROS, but I'm actually, so under this kind of new section, I'm going to basically ask a user to make a selection of what they want to add. Now, because this note is blank, we can be potentially a little smart here around what we actually are going to what we're going to suggest, right? So like if the user hasn't added anything and we know that, we can actually potentially gray these other options out. So I'm actually just going to kind of indicate that on this space, like the only thing that's really available is this first one. So if this HPI, the history of present illness, is the only thing that's available at the moment, like that's the thing the user needs to select. And then once we keep going, once we hit HPI, we kind of get this HPI heading basically. Perhaps like we kind of remove these options and then our other options come back basically. And then under HPI, start typing. You'll see me that I'm kind of going back and forth between adding some hierarchy here and not, and that's actually just like the thing I have to fight here. I'm not really trying to think about like size and like kind of like the deep interaction and kind of that stuff. Like that's just kind of my brain trying to go there. What I'm trying to do is I'm really just trying to think about what are the things that need to be here and how is someone going to be doing this. Now, when it comes to start typing, this is something that's really interesting because when we start adding a section, we want to be able to add a type of section, some variables, and potentially even like a templated section here. So I need to be thinking about how do I give someone the ability within this space to go ahead and actually insert a template. Now, one thing that we could do is as we're talking about like these note sections, we could actually think about what if instead of it's a section, it's a template. And a section A blank section is essentially a type of template. So your templates can be organized by section type, and they can have different amounts of content within them. So some of them will be populated, some of them may not be populated. I'm going to actually group add section code and sign, because those are kind of the things that I think are going to kind of be prevalent here throughout. So I'm going to make all these the same height. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change add a section to add template. And then under the section or under the space where I'm adding a template, I can choose, I'm going to create some kind of way to choose a template. So I'm going to have templates by like the type potentially. And then I might even potentially add a section here or add a new space where once I've selected HPI, I'm going to go into this next one and choose like, and maybe just make up some like, I'm just going to call them template 1, template 2, etc. for now. But like these could be named almost whatever, right? So like they could be pre-populated, they could be created by someone in the practice, they could be created by this physician user. It kind of is up to, I think there's a lot of options there. But I'm going to call these templates, and I'm going to give them all the same hierarchy so that we know that they're all available. And I'm going to draw that arrow, and then boom, that's that. And then I can choose template 1, which for sake of argument for the moment, let's say template 1 is our blank template. And then I'll go over and we can start typing. And now I'm starting to get into the details around how someone is actually going to interact with these objects and how they're going to kind of flow through this system, basically. And now, and also as I kind of get into this further, I can begin to think about, okay, so the add template code and sign are things that are going to be here all the time. The template kind of options are going to be a little bit more ephemeral. They're not going to be present all the time. They may not even be active or able to be accessed all the time, so they can kind of come and go. And suddenly when I get to wireframing, we can actually take a little bit more time to think about, okay, I know that these things are going to be ephemeral. These are kind of the options, or these are the problems, the user problems, the interaction problems I'm solving here. Now I can be thinking a little bit more intentionally about how to wireframe these things out and what that should be. So this is a little bit about how breadboarding works. I've taken a few liberties here, and like I said, this is something I'm still learning. I'm still kind of figuring it out. And to be honest, this is kind of my favorite thing that I've learned in the last year, and I'm really looking forward to applying it in 2023. And I think that you will too, because it gives you the opportunity to take the time to think about hierarchy really intentionally. It gives you the time to think about different interaction abilities or spaces that a user is going to interact with, and then how that actually needs to translate into the design of the system itself. I hope you liked this video. I hope you learned something from this, and I hope that it's useful. I'll be linking more resources to breadboarding down below. They'll probably do a much better job of explaining it than I will, but I hope you have at least learned something, and if you have, I'd love to hear about it either in the comments or you can hit me up on Twitter. If you liked it, I'd love for you to give this video a like. Thanks for watching. I'll see you real soon.